Welcome to season 2 of On the Spot. At On the Spot, we discuss the issues.
It's another Monday, and I bring you your favorite show, On the Spot. Well, of course, me, Stella Bangura. So we are back on the business train as my guest is a private sector development, value chain, market systems, and project management expert with distinctive entrepreneurial instincts and proven strength in providing business analysis, solutions, directions, capacity, and adaptable strategies that has so far carried many businesses and projects in Sierra Leone through steady and continuous growth. He is the team facility manager for Slag Accelerator, a project providing targeted support to agribusinesses, and a co-founder of Mentor X Africa. He is an entrepreneur with a knack for acting, having featured in intriguing movies like Tangled with the Boss. And I don't know if you're guessing who it is. I don't know if you know who you think it is. But anyway, he is Hamid Marah. Did I get the pronunciation right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good with my pronunciations. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you, Hamid. How are you?
I'm good, and thanks for having me, Stella.
Yes, good to have you on the show. So we're here to talk business, but I'm going to start a little bit, first of all, with acting. I mean, where is this acting bit coming from? You're heavily in the business sector, the private sector, but you're acting. How did that come about?
Well, I'll say the people who are closest to me can tell you that my creative and artistic side is actually my better half. It's my better side.
Oh, wow.
And it's a side I've been suppressing for a lot of practical reasons. So when I was growing up, obviously what I'm known for by most of my friends from school is I used to do music. I used to do,
Oh, wow.
Because I write songs.
You write music, songs
yes.
as well?
Oh. I used to do poetry, so I write a lot of poems. And I was involved in drama. So back then what we do is concerts, right? So we used to do concerts to raise money during holidays, and we go from town to town. And that's what I used to do.
To perform?
Yes, to perform.
Oh, interesting.
But then my dad passed when I was 15. Yeah, and then I practically became the man in the house, and my younger ones and my mom had to look up to me. So one day I came home from the studio and I met my mom crying. I'm like, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Oh, your papa don't die, you say want to kill me."
Oh, wow.
And I cried too, and that was the end of everything. I think in her mind, she was scared that art could compete with my education. And today, when I look back, I think she was right, because back then, art was mostly ascribed to dropout, drugs, alcohol, and things like that. And so she needed to somehow talk me out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful I decided to be a good son, mama's boy. But now, I feel I have all the freedom and leverage to go back to my original self and just explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did Tangled with the Boss come about?
Yeah, so I mean...
Oh, so for the record, Tangled with the Boss, for those of you who watched the previous episode on the show, is a movie from Diamond Pictures, and that's from Sierra Comfort in UK, and she was one of the guests on the show. So don't be surprised. I know you watched it, so go find it if you haven't seen it. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously, once I found the freedom in terms of now my mom is happy. I mean, I'm educated.
And you're in a better space as well.
Yeah, sure, exactly, right? I mean, I'm doing all the things she hoped, I could do.
Yeah.
I've inspired my younger ones and taking them through, the critical steps of life, for example. So my mom is a lot more relaxed now. I mean, back in 2010, 2009, I started exploring movies again.
Okay.
And so the first movie that I did that went out, so This is not counting all those ones we did that never came out. Yeah, it was a movie I did together with Soup D Production, which is basically owned and headed by Desmond Finney. And Sagacious Innovative Production, which, I mean, my cousin, myself, I mean, we own and run. And we did a movie titled Zimat. Zimat went as far as DSTV.
Oh, wow.
It was played on DSTV for 3 years. I mean, just before Zimat was premiered, I got a scholarship to study for my master's, so I went away. And we couldn't follow up on the success of Zimat to do more movies. Once I came back from my studies, I mean, it was work. I got really busy. But since then...
I can relate. It was, you got really busy.
But since then, I've been trying to see how we could basically form a good team with other young people and see how we could produce different movies. Movies that can basically help tell our story, that can portray a different picture of art in Sierra Leone. And so I was approached by a group of young people who wanted to do Tango with the Boss. The role that I was handed was a tough one. I mean,
the boss.
The boss was a rapist. No, but I said to the director, come on, I went through the script and I saw it was violent and I'm like, nah, we got to find a way to improvise. We got to change some of these things and see. But anyway, it was a story worth telling. Like the patriarchy, the inequality around us is shocking. Somebody needed to play that role and tell that story. So I feel honored that I was able to portray that role.
But beyond acting, because I know, like my intro, I said you basically work with businesses and you try to sort of take them through the process from the very baby stage up onto just steady growth and progress and also as well supporting startups as well. Is there a plan to also bring that, and a lot of that work you're doing is in the agribusiness sector, is there a plan to bring it into the entertainment sector? Because there are a lot of businesses that are struggling within the entertainment industry that would require some sort of business support and guidance.
Sure. So firstly, even though my work is a lot more currently concentrated on agri-business and ag sector, I mean, I work across the spectrum. But obviously, I think part of the objective is to develop sort of a blueprint, like a roadmap that any business in our context, which is a very difficult context, can use to basically upscale a very good idea. Obviously, I've been engaging with a lot of people, and maybe this is where I'm going to break the ice. So recently, we incorporated Eminence Visual Studios. So everyone knows Eminence Africa. And now Eminence Africa has now a subsidiary which is basically going to focus on movie production, basically.
Wonderful.
And behind the scenes.
And they got a good team. You've got Ben, you've got Laura, and a host of them.
So building on not just the team, but also the network as well as the successes they've registered in other areas. We want to see how, together with my business development expertise, we can translate that into transforming the movie sector. So as I speak, basically, we've put together a team and structure to produce at least 5 Scandinavian movies with the same set of cast. And these are going to be Netflix and Standard. And we're targeting some of the biggest TVs across the world. I'm not going to call a name, but we're using somebody who helped transform the Ghanaian industry as a mentor, but also as a partner. Together with him, we want to see how we could help transform the industry here in Sierra Leone. It would be a shame if, with all of these experiences from my side, from the Eminence side, if we don't bring them to fruition and see how we can help transform the movie industry.
As a whole. This is On the Spot. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to On the Spot, and with me still is Hamid Marah. Hamid, your story is very inspiring. You were raised by a single mother. You have obviously your siblings. I think about 2 or 3 sisters.
3 sisters.
3 sisters. Your dad died at a very early age. But what is very inspiring about your story is the fact that your mother was actually a farmer. Take us through that story and how you got sucked into the farming or the agricultural sector.
So Yeah, my dad passed 2 days to my 15th birthday, precisely. Yeah, and my mom was a typical housewife, basically. Typical uneducated housewife.
Wow.
I mean, someone who is brilliant, but she couldn't afford the opportunity to be educated, like I said, because of the patriarchy. And imagine back then, right, in our communities. And so she had to find a way to care for her family, right? And it wasn't just her kids. Like my dad had an extended family. My dad was a kind of
take care of them.
My dad was the kind of person that people from our village, the family members had to bring all of their kids to live with my dad because he was a building contractor, so he was training some of them, and I mean, life was good, put it that way. And then suddenly, boom, all of that went away. Yeah. And this woman was so bold enough to embrace all of that challenge. I mean, she couldn't pick and choose and say, okay, it's just my kids.
Yeah.
She wanted to look after everything my dad left behind. I mean, I still cannot wrap my head around how somebody can love someone that much, but she loved him enough to inherit everything. And so she had to find a way. And then she went into agriculture. I mean, initially it was just vegetable farming. But my mom, despite the education that seemed as a limitation, she refused to be limited. And then she organized her colleagues and other women, and they formed what is now the most renowned cooperative in agriculture in the country. And then basically started doing vegetables together, started accessing trainings, partnership with FAO initially.
Wow.
And then slowly they kept growing. And as her first son, and with a lot of them virtually uneducated, they needed someone to act as a scribe, so as a secretary. Right? A lot of men who would come around would want to take advantage of the situation, and so they were better off relying on one of their sons, right? So at an early age, even when I was in high school, I used to go to workshops with them. I'll be the one taking notes. I'll be the one working on small proposals, of course, with the help of extension officers or people they relate with in the different organizations. By the time I went to university, I was doing full-blown proposals for my mom and her peers and everything. I mean, I could remember just in my qualifying year, I worked on a proposal that was successful, and she had to travel out of the country for the first time. She went to Italy on this exhibition and everything. I mean, before I could even sit on a plane, my mom had been around the world. I mean, because of agriculture.
This is beautiful.
And I saw the beauty of agriculture. I saw how one
transformational
woman,
it can be.
yes, and a few women together with their colleagues could change the narrative of a whole community, right? I mean, a lot of people have a similar story as myself from where I'm from, right? From Koinadugu, which back in the day is not one of the places that is renowned for educated people. But my mom and her peers, I mean, followed the same model. They used agricultural proceeds to educate their kids and everything. Interestingly, when I graduated, me and one of my best friends, who's an engineer, we decided to hold a joint party back home in Kabbalah. And everyone brought their gifts, and my mom went into the hall with a basket of vegetables. And I still have that picture, one of my best pictures. And she said, that's my gift, and that is because I use proceeds from these vegetables to basically see you through school and university. I mean, seeing the potential of the agricultural sector, benefiting from it at first hand, I can only find myself going back to working in the agricultural sector. I've had opportunities to work in other sectors. In particular, I was building for myself a very, very interesting career in resource governance at GIZ. And by all indications, I wanted to be there. I was loved at GIZ. Everyone looked up to me. I was an advisor for a whole regional project. I was learning German. One of my colleagues got me Rosetta Stone. And I could see my pathway and how I could grow within the GIZ system. But I always wanted to come back to business development and agribusiness development. And so I had to quit one of my favorite jobs. I still look back and ask myself, was it the wrong choice? But I tell myself I was following my heart. And fast forward, it's pretty much obvious that our best sector in this country and in Africa is in fact agriculture.
Yeah.
And that is because we have massive untapped potential.
Yes.
That is because it's a sector that employ the highest amount of people in our country and the region, but also because the world population and our population is growing rapidly. So the one thing we're always going to need is food. It's basically food, but also all the other things that we could produce from agricultural proceeds and raw material. So I'm in a good place. I'm where my heart is, but also I'm at a place that presents a lot of opportunity for national development, for employment creation, for women economic empowerment, and an infinite range of win-win situations that could generate shared prosperity for our country and the continent.
And it's quite interesting because you didn't just leave only that dream job at GIZ. You also left one at the African Minerals then. You had a really good position and you left it to go further your master's. But in all this positions, you were still in the business development field and you were still supporting businesses. How?
So obviously at the early stages of my professional career, obviously I would say two jobs. I have my normal job. I have the job of supporting my mom and her agricultural businesses and all of her friends. And my mom is usually, I would say, she's the only one that can do this to me. My mom disregards all other commitments I have. She calls you now, I want this thing. Like you have to go there, you have to get it done. And I always do that with honor and grace. Beyond that period, I said to myself, I mean, if I do this so well informally, why don't I find a formalized way to do this? And so with one of my best friends, who was my roommate for 3 years in college, so he's like a brother, we decided to start a business development firm called SAS Consult. We registered SAS Consult both here in Sierra Leone and in the UK, but that's because he was doing his PhD then. And with SAS Consult, basically, I would say we've accelerated more than 100 businesses across the spectrum, basically. I mean, we've consulted for organizations like World Bank Project, UK-funded projects, Kiva, Corded, KPMG, and a host of international organizations, basically, that we've implemented assignments for successfully. And so apart from my day's job, I always have SAS Consult that we use to basically help accelerate and provide support to different businesses. And SAS Consult is, running, it's 5 years now running. So I've been doing this with my friend and brother, basically for all this period. And as I basically progress in my career, you see challenges that cut across. You see challenges that limit the sector in so many ways, and you start thinking of how you could basically solve some of this, right? And so fortunately, also one of my really good friends and another one, so two of my good friends, we had a tie of the heart and decided to start Mentor X Africa. But that is because it's very clear that mentorship, quality mentorship, and affordable one is really critical to grow in the sector, because you have a lot of people who are well positioned to tap the potentials around us, but they lack guidance, the right coaching, and access to the right mentorship. And so Mentor X Africa is something that we started, and it's blown out of proportion. We're now in almost 40 countries across Africa. We're translated now in French, so we provide services to both Anglophone and Francophone countries. And it's still growing amazingly. And so
is there any particular focus on mentoring more young people into the agricultural sector?
So obviously, that's one of the sectors we focus on. But Mentor X, basically, we're working across the spectrum. We have a broad focus, but we have a particular angle that works on entrepreneurship, and a very, very important chunk of which is the agribusiness mentorship. Obviously, that is something that is very close to my heart, and so I offer myself as a mentor in that particular field. So I have some mentees who will select me, and then I provide mentorship to them under that arrangement. But yeah, I think we're being opportunistic in the sense, first, we're looking at where the opportunities are. Firstly, it's young people. if we want to build the next set of leaders in the continent and the country, which is one of our objectives at Mentor X, we have to target young people, because we have a better opportunity now to catch them young and start changing perspective from that age. So we target more young people, even though we're open to everyone. But also we look at sectors that are quite relevant for the country and for the African continent. As I established earlier on, agriculture is interestingly one of them. But also entrepreneurship in general is also an interesting stream. And what is very, very interesting about Mentor X is that we're not elitist. In the sense, we're not just looking for people who are top-notch graduates or have a degree or so. We're looking for leaders every class and spectrum of society. Even if you're a plumber, for example, you can be a leader in that sector, because all of these middle-level manpower and roles are critical to our development. One of the missing skills gap in our country, if you look now, may not necessarily be a university education. It's actually exactly technical ability and technical training and middle manpower. Because you have a lot of small businesses, for example, who cannot afford to pay a graduate with a master's. What they need, in fact, is just somebody who can keep their books, right? So somebody who is just basically trained in accounting. It doesn't necessarily have to be a degree or a master's. And so Mentor X is quite targeted in that sense. We're quite opportunistic, and we try to tailor the services we offer to people.
All right, Hamid, we'll take another break.
Thank you.
He's still with us. We'll be back more to talk on the show. Right, welcome back. I have Hamid Marah here on the show. And before the break, we spoke extensively about mentorship. Let's now talk about your business support, development aspect. There are a lot of businesses, small, medium-sized businesses in Sierra Leone that are struggling under the current economy and environment that we find ourselves, which is not unique to Sierra Leone. This is what the globe right now is going through. With your years of experience, how do you provide business support and how do you kickstart startups and just basically help them progress from one stage onto the other stage where they become more sustainable?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll say since I've been working in the space, which spans well beyond a decade, there has been a lot of transformative changes in approach, right? And I've been fortunate enough to have worked in different periods, right? And watch the global shift from one approach to the other, right? I mean, if you track back 10, 15 years back, it was mostly direct support, where people will basically get a group of SMEs, train them, and just give them hands out, right? And back then, a lot of people will bank on the saying that, if you give a woman a fish, you feed her for a day.
Yeah.
If you give her a net, you feed her for a lifetime. That was a premise on which direct support was justified, right? But we've seen across the globe how this has not really succeeded. So the correct thinking is then, now that she has a net to fish, what happens if the net is broken? Where does she go to fix the net? Where can she buy a new net that is appropriate, right? I mean, what if her boat is broken? Who fixed the boat? I mean, what if the flock of fish is being depleted? Who regulates that? And so these are all the things we refer to as support functions. And so the current approach that I lean towards nowadays, what we call the market systems approach. And this is where you focus on different levels. So first, we provide what we call direct farm level support. And that is we provide direct support to the businesses themselves. And I'm going to explain how we do that in a bit. But also we have the one we call basically targeting the support functions. So we see how we enabled service providers around the businesses. And so if they now want to access services beyond our support, they have somewhere they can go to so they can access support, but also it will be affordable and tailored to their needs. I mean, let's start with the farm level support. So one of the things that we emphasize first is the fact that you have to, sustainability has to be at the core of the approach. In the sense, you don't just give SMEs and give and give and give infinitely. Rather, they should be in a position where the business only needs a certain push from someone, but once they get that push, they're able to sustain accessing services on their own over time, right? And the second point that we emphasize is tailoring. And so we don't have a one-size-fits-all support to all SMEs. We at first start what we either call a diagnostics or needs assessment. And so we assess the business first based on the sector they work in, based on their context, but also based on the specific challenges they may face as a business for several reasons. And then we tailor the support to those needs. I mean, earlier on I spoke about the need to hire someone, for example. If what you need is just someone who can manage your books in a ledger, which may cost you 100,000, it will not help you if somebody wants you to use QuickBooks, which may cost you hundreds of dollars, right? For a lot of reasons, it's a mismatch. And so we ensure that whatever support we provide is tailored. And then across the board, we've seen that some challenges are quite common across SMEs. So almost every SME in our context, in the African context, struggle with access to finance. But most times we try to also drill down to what we call investment readiness. A lot of businesses will tell you, we want finance, we need finance. But in fact, they're not well positioned to utilize finance if you give it to them. Right? If you give them a loan, for example, you're just creating more challenge for them because they cannot use that loan to make profits. They will just become indebted. And so we look at all the things you need to do that will get you investment ready, that will give you the capacity to absorb finance before we get you access to finance. So this could be building your capacity in managing your finances. It could be building systems, how you basically then manage the finances. And then it could be basically helping you develop a product that can penetrate the market and basically get you a good share of the market that will make your business profitable, right? It could be helping you develop systems to improve your operations, because if your operations management is flawed, you incur unnecessary cost, but also there are a lot of ineffectiveness in your business that will make you unprofitable. Not because you're bad business or because you're in a bad sector, but because you just manage poorly. We also help you develop systems that will help you better manage your supply chain. And this will be basically your upstream and downstream. So how you acquire raw materials, but also how you sell your finished product. And so we target all of these core areas, and then we come to key issues like your product itself, right? How appealing it is to customers, your packaging, your messaging, how you market, how you target customers, how you sell, how you price.
So how do you identify those businesses who you provide this sort of support to? How do you identify them? How do businesses, because we have some businesses that do not know that they are in they're in a fix. They do not know they have problems, and they attribute most of the challenges that their businesses are going through to the external factors, not looking inward. So how do you identify them? And in instances where businesses don't even know that they are the problem, how do you reach out to them?
It's a sad reality that we cannot possibly reach out to every business. I wish we could, but the reality is we can't. But also earlier on I spoke about sustainability, right? Which means everything is driven by the market. So I'll flip the question over. How can businesses reach us? And us in the sense doesn't just mean me or my entity, but similar entities that provide similar business. And I can tell you, you have a host of good, support function players, projects that provide good services to businesses. So let's talk about how businesses can reach them. The reason why I'm putting the onus on businesses is because that's the first step. The first step is to want to access support. It requires a shift in mindset. The first step is to recognize that you're not entitled to these supports. Rather, you have to work to access them because you need them if you want to grow your business. So in terms of access, you have different determinants of this. For example, you have specified projects. So take my current project, which is SL Accelerator, which is government of Sierra Leone implemented and World Bank funded project. We have a mandate to work in a specific sector, which is agro-processing. So automatically an SME who doesn't work in that space, I mean, does not fit, right? But any SME that works in agro-processing obviously can access us by applying to our annual cohort-based program. And when once we put out our call for application, we make sure you can access it everywhere. Hard copies, soft copies, online, on the internet. We go on radio, on TV, we go across the country and then hold marketing events where we explain our criteria and all the benefits you can get. So it's then on the SME to want this enough to at least apply, right? Because you have to demonstrate that you really, really value
But
this
I think
enough.
is the information there for people to know? Because there's one thing to have this service readily available for businesses to tap into, but knowing that it's available and where to go get it is most times the major challenge.
I agree, information asymmetry, but also even lack of access to information is a serious challenge. And so as part of my current project, for example, also, we have a whole component that works on providing support to what I've referred to as the support function, the business environment. For example, we work with government agencies like SMIDA, where we help them to develop different systems that will involve information. And so an SME can go to Sleeper or SMIDA and basically access information on different things. Even if you don't work in the agribusiness sector, you can ask about who provides services to whatever sector you work in, right? Where you can find relevant projects that you can approach that support your particular business. We're also working with some of these support function players like Sleeper, for example, to see how we develop things like aftercare services for investors, if you're an investor, but also to see how we can develop grievance redress mechanisms. And so if you're an investor, someone is treating you unfairly or your investment is going bad, somewhere you can go and then seek redress. But also we're working with the Standards Bureau, for example, to see how they can improve their infrastructure to provide services in terms of certification, testing of products for SMEs. So all of this work really build up to an enabled business environment, and all an SME can do is then, as I said, walk up to SMIDA, which is a small and medium enterprise development agency, or you walk up to Sleeper and ask about information. At the very least, they'll be able to direct you to a particular project or agency that work in your relevant sector. Now, beyond this, as I was saying, right, every SME has the owners to position themselves well. And so I wanted to talk briefly about if you're an SME, how can you select your sector or product? You should have just simple indicators for doing that. Firstly, you have a lot of people who think they have a good business idea, but it may not pass simple test, right? An opportunity from the market system's perspective will be the product you have, is it really wanted? Is there a lot of people who want to buy your product? The second point is, can you, with some upgrade of your capacity, actually produce this product? And if you produce it, can you sell at a price that is lower than your production price? Meaning, can you be profitable? And then finally, are you able to scale up this production? Do you have the resources? Is there raw material? I mean, do you have the capacity? Can you really do this, right? If it doesn't pass this test, no one will believe in your business enough to invest, right? Be it an investor or project. And so one way to do this is look around you. Look for the things that are most challenging that people really need. These are your product that you should focus on and do your small market research and see how best you can do them. But also, when you do this kind of research, think about where you can get support, right? You look at the investment climate in Sierra Leone. Where is appetite for investment? I mean, investors, projects, where is everyone looking to invest? Because if you don't have enough capital to scale your business and you're looking towards investment, you then have to align that investment need to where, for example, the banks want to provide fund, where investors want to put their money, where do you have projects, who want to provide support to that sector. And then you target those sectors, albeit you first establish that there is a clear market opportunity and you can tap that opportunity while being profitable. I see a lot of people, especially young people who now want to be entrepreneurs, they just focus on the social aspect of it. That's a good thing. We all want to deliver impact and value, but you cannot do so sustainably if you don't have a concrete and feasible business idea. It's not enough to just say, oh yes, I want to create employment.
Yes.
I want to solve this problem in my community. The question is how? How are you going to do so in a sustainable way? And I go back again to what I mean by sustainability. It means maybe right now you need support for you to scale up, but beyond that support, do you have a product or service that can sell and be profitable at the very least to ensure that you're able to operate on your own without asking for money all the time? Are you able to scale up and be profitable and generate wealth for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for your country? If you cannot, it's not a good business idea. You're not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody basically who is using creative ways to solve a social problem, but doing so in a sustainable way. The key word here is sustainability. I mean, it's not sufficient that every year you have to write letters and ask for funding. I mean, it makes you vulnerable to a whole lot of things, especially for female entrepreneurs, right? You get a lot of people coming at you with different things because you rely on them. You're not generating impact. Every year you need to write letters, you need to go around and get money. There's a better way.
So
a better way.
In Sierra Leone, what are the common challenges that businesses are faced with, and how are they, from your experience, supposed to address those challenges?
Yeah, the first one I would say is how people choose their business idea. I think how much you're going to succeed or in fact fail is largely dependent on the idea you selected and how you go about it. I mean, what we see around us is one person starts something, next day everyone wants to do the same thing without even looking deep enough to know whether it makes sense or it's going to be profitable. But also we leave all the amazing ideas around us and we go for the things that most times sound sexy or look cool and everything. I think when you want to select your business idea, you first have to look within. I mean, what are the skills you have or the foundation you have to build those skills? What are the things you really like and love to do? Because trust me, you will fail along the way. You will have short-term failures and challenges. And what is going to keep you going is if you have inner motivation and passion, right? If you're not passionate, it's easy for you to quit. But if it's something that is aligned to your life goals and interests, it makes you resilient. That's the first point. The second point is it has to be a solid business idea based on quick and sensible research. You look at opportunities around you, you conduct a quick market research, you see whether it's feasible and it's possible for you to produce them, and you see whether it's profitable. I mean, the third point for me is a lot of people don't value starting small, growing organically, and playing the long-term game. They want it now, like instantly. It doesn't work that way. If you really want to build something, you must be willing to start small. You grow gradually and organically, and you must be willing to be in it for the long-term game. I'm not saying if you're seeing obvious failures, you cannot divert or reroute. But if you're seeing small growth, be patient. You got to be patient enough to grow over time. Now, beyond this, there's a huge capacity gap, both in terms of the entrepreneurs or business owners themselves, but also a resource pool of middle-level manpower they can tap into. It's really, really difficult to find quality middle manpower in our context. And so this is where I think government and partners are making a lot of efforts to build people who can help bridge this skills gap. I mean, what is beautiful about Sierra Leone right now is that in terms of the Doing Business Index, we're one of the leading countries. I can tell you, if you want to register a business today, you can do it like in a day. By end of day tomorrow, you have a company incorporated, which is a beautiful thing. It's a transparent process. It's quite easy. And so there are a lot of things where we've improved. But in terms of how much capacity you can tap into, that's still something we need to improve on. There's room for improvement, and government is making a lot of strides towards that direction. Now, in terms of capacity, in-house capacity themselves, we need entrepreneurs who first are honest enough to recognize their limitations and they're willing to learn. I mean, there's just too much resource around us nowadays. almost every entrepreneur or business owner has a smartphone.
Yes.
There's just too much free resources online to learn your particular business or line of trade. Make use of that time, make use of those resources and access. Beyond that, you have a handful of business innovations facilities around us. I mean, you have Innovation Axis, you have Sensi Tech Hub, you have Aurora. I mean, you now have Zelia in the creative industries. Of course, you have SL Accelerator, you have Mentor X. I mean, you have a handful of them that you can turn to and then help build your capacity. Now, towards the challenges that may be out of the reach of SMEs, access to finance is a serious challenge, and I usually try to unbundle this challenge because I think it's twofold, right? On the one hand, which I've spoken about, is SMEs themselves becoming investment ready. It's not enough to just say you want money. Why do you need money? Maybe if you can drill down to what you need the money for, this could be things you can even get some other way without even getting money. There's somebody who may want to buy shares or invest. There may be a family who has an empty room that can become your shop, so you don't have to go through rent. But importantly, you have to build a structure that will ensure that you have the capacity to absorb finance. But in terms of the other spectrum, aspect of it, we don't have financial instruments around us that are quite tailored to the needs of SMEs. For example, if you work in agriculture, you will struggle to access a loan because most of the loans are not tailored to the needs of an agribusiness. For example, if you take a loan and they need you to pay every month, it doesn't work for someone in agriculture because you harvest either biannually or annually. So you're only able to pay after 12 months. A loan that requires you to pay after 1 or 2 months, it's just killing for you. The interest rate, obviously, it goes without saying, is really, really high. So we don't have instruments that are tailored to the needs of businesses in terms of their affordability, so high interest rates, but also in terms of their suitability, so the term, but also the different conditions of those loans. This is one area where we need to improve, both from the public aspect of it, and I think government is making a lot of friendly laws and acts that will encourage investment in the area, but also it's a space for a lot of people to invest from the private sector, right, and have equity funds, so funds that provide support to businesses in return for having shares, right? But businesses themselves have to be open to those kind of arrangements. I mean, the trick is not being selfish, right? If you're selfish with something that generates 1,000 loans, you're going to end up with 1,000 loans every year. If you're selfless and then 1,000 loans go to 100,000, you could get 70,000 if you have 70%, right? So that's one area. And the other area is we have some other infrastructural challenges around SMEs. I mean, if you are an SME that have a very, very heavy supply chain involvement in your business, you will struggle for reliable transportation if you want to hire trucks. I mean, now our roads are a lot better compared to before, but still there's a challenge in terms of the service provision in transportation. Obviously, internet is improving, but still a bit of a challenge in some areas. I mean, power obviously is challenging, and it's very, very costly to generate your own energy source. We could look to renewable energy, but it's very expensive and not always affordable. So these are areas where all of us have a responsibility to see how we help create an enabling business environment for SMEs. But to a larger extent, some of the challenges that SMEs are faced with, I encourage SMEs to not sit and wait, but rather make strides and overcome those they can overcome on their own. And some of which require a bit of shift in mindset. I mean, being entrepreneurial, being a go-getter, but also being someone who's not waiting for somebody to come do it for you. Being an entrepreneur means you have to be entrepreneurial. Go get it.
Go get it. Irrespective of the climate or the challenges, go out, get it done. But most importantly, I always keep saying, business is just simply identifying a problem, providing a solution that people are willing to pay for. We'll take a quick break. This is On the Spot. We'll be back. Okay, welcome back. I don't know if you missed that part, but there was just so many important information for SMEs out there. If you missed that part, you need to go back and watch the show again. You can't afford to miss it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful wise nudges there that you threw in there free of charge. to all the people out there. So thank you so much, Hamid. So as we round up, you're a big player in the agricultural sector, and there's high unemployment rate in Sierra Leone. Fortunately, agriculture remains the biggest employer, in Sierra Leone, but yet still, we do it at a subsistence level, a capacity. As we continue to encourage more young people to look at the agricultural sector as a potential area for income generation and business opportunities. You've been in that field. You've seen how it transformed your life, how it supported your mother to be able to, fend for a whole family. What would you say to young people? Why should they look at the agricultural sector for income, for a business idea or a source of empowerment?
Yeah. So before I put young people on the spot, I first want to say all of us, so those of us who work in the policy space, project space, but also public space, it's about time that we do a bit in shifting mindset. We require a massive paradigm shift in terms of how we teach and view entrepreneurship and agriculture in particular. I think it's about time that we think of incorporating as a compulsory and core subject across school and university curriculum, both agribusiness, agriculture, and entrepreneurship, right? But I would say also now to young people, right? Gone are the days when we all just want to become lawyers, accountants, and doctors, right? Because in fact, the richest people across the world and all around us these days are entrepreneurs. They're farmers, they're agriculturists. And gone are the days when we feel or we perceive agriculture as a port for either the uneducated or the poor, right? Now agriculture is gradually becoming sexy thanks to a lot of programs around us, and also SL Accelerator, SCADEP and other programs. Agriculture is becoming quite attractive. On our cohort we have a host of graduates, lawyers and other people who are business owners. They are in agribusiness and they've quit their trade to basically work as farmers. So what I'm saying to young people is that agriculture presents you with a massive opportunity to become an employer. So you don't have to worry about employment for yourself. You are in fact going to become an employer. You're going to generate wealth for yourself, for your community, and for your country. And I think we're now moving away from our traditional crops, because the narrative that has been told by working in some of these sectors has not been quite encouraging. Now you have a lot of programs that can direct you towards quite market-oriented and high-potential crops and sectors. For example, we import about $15 million worth of onions in this country. Onions. And we can grow onions in this country. We import about $10 million worth of Irish potatoes in this country. We can import that. We import millions of dollars of salt. We can actually mine salt in Sierra Leone. The poultry sector is growing massively. We import about 14 million eggs every month in Sierra Leone. We have a poultry sector that is dying to access maize. Right now, if you cultivate 1,000 hectares of maize farm, you can sell all of it. There are people who can buy all of it because our farmers buy maize from as far as Ukraine. They've done buying from Guinea, from Mali. Now they go to Ukraine, to other countries in Europe to buy maize. There's just a host of money was sitting on, like
in the agriculture sector.
Low-hanging fruits. I'm not going to say it's not challenging, but trust me, the returns will be worthwhile. So I'm saying to young people, it's about time you all start owning your own farms. It's about time you start considering going into agriculture, becoming an agribusiness owner, and employing everyone in your class.
So Hamid, as a business developer and providing all sorts of support, I know there are a lot of young people now watching and they're like, oh my God, we need to get in touch with Hamid. Or businesses, they're like, oh, we need his services. How can people reach you and get your services?
Yep. So obviously SL Accelerator, basically you can visit our website. It's the same, www.slaccelerator.org. But we've got our Facebook page. You can message us. We've got our Twitter and Instagram page. But I would say the support we can provide under this entity is limited, right? Because we have a mandate under which we operate, and we operate a cohort-based system. Now that we've just recruited our second cohort, for example, we're going to wait until the next cohort. But you can also reach out to us at SAS Consult, obviously. I mean, I'm now focused on the SL Accelerator job, but we've got a team. Yeah, we've got a team, and we've got my partners, other directors and managers who are quite competent, who can provide business services of all sorts, especially if you're in agribusiness or related entities.
Wonderful. All right, we're going to put all the contacts there so people know how to reach you and reach SAS Consult and even
but also
the
subscribe to Mentor X as well.
Mentor
right?
X as well. So we're going to drop everything there. Well, thank you so much, Hamid, for joining me on the show and just talking a little bit about business and SMEs and how we can move them from one level on to the other level. I know that you've just dropped so many bombshells and nuggets there that anyone watching can take and literally run with and see some progress in their business. Thank you so much. I'm sure I'm going to definitely have you again on the show, but till then,
it's been a pleasure.
Till then, this is On the Spot. Coming up are my final words. In my final words, no nation can develop without the active participation, lead, and expansion of its private sector. Government's role is not to be the major employer, but rather creating the enabling environment for businesses to not only be established, but also thrive. Thus, ease of doing business, right political climate, availability of certain amenities like power, good road networks, easier access to capital, and other policies that promotes the right investment climate and protects the local market should be government's major priority. There is an untapped gold mine in the agricultural sector that young people should look into. Food will forever remain a growing necessity and thus a guaranteed income earner for those ready to take the risk and learn the trade. More resource centers and personnel, especially within the agricultural sector, are highly needed if we are to see an increased interest in agribusiness. Many people are looking to go into this sector, but access to relevant information and support remains a major hindrance and hurdle. What we don't do well as a people is to collaborate. Until we do, we will continue to lose out on financial, technical, expertise and support that may just be the magic needed to advance a business from one level to the next. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the National Revenue Authority and the Anti-Corruption Commission for supporting us to bring you this show. As always, we'll be back next week, but till then, stay fabulous.